Even more stupid.
Yeah, but
Recording in
isn't
progress.
that every episode though?
It's called branding, Matt. I mean,
Yeah. Jeepers. All right. Hey everyone. Welcome back. Welcome to another Lovecraft Easing podcast episode. Um, you might think we have a guest today because Kenneth Hyde is here. You would actually be wrong because Ken is, when he can make it, he won't be here every week or anything like that, but unless he wants to be. But Ken is now a Lovecraft Easing panelist, part-time anyway. Or yeah, his
hold for
schedule.
riotous applause.
His schedule, yes.
Yes, it's this Sunday bracket is sometimes a little difficult. I have sometimes other stuff going on. So.
Oh yeah, I knew that when I asked. So just
Yeah.
whenever's convenient for you. So yeah, a warm welcome to Ken. He's doing two things at once there, which is never good. And I'm glad you said yes, man. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I was delighted to be asked. I think of this as pretty much the premier Lovecraft space on the internet. It's the e-zine, both print and video. So
Oh, thanks.
being asked to be part of it is pretty cool, I think.
Well,
Not least because I get to see Pete Roll, who's Pete, are you broadcasting from your deathbed?
This is not new. This is not new. Yeah. Yeah, this is not new at all.
He was laid low by a mysterious fungus in a French edition of Brian Stableford somehow. Something horrendous has happened. Speak to us, Pete. Speak from beyond the veil.
Oh my gosh.
I am exhausted. So I decided to go to my bed and stay there.
You know why you're exhausted, right? Because you do too much. That's why.
Yeah. I do. I spent the entire morning sending emails to people about their books that they want, and then went to lunch, came back at 1:00, started packing books, and my wife and kids walked in and said, "How long have you been packing books?" And it was 3:00.
Oh wow!
Oh my gosh!
I've been packing boxes for 2 hours.
Oh my gosh!
That's a lot.
Yeah. So
let's see. Scott Jackson says Pete looks like a completely disaffected Santa Claus.
That is actually the goal.
Right.
The goal is to
I suspect that in July this is what Santa looks like, right? I mean,
yeah.
He's like, sorry, dude, call me in 6 months when everyone cares.
Yeah.
Well, because at this point, it's all downhill, right?
Yeah, right.
Santa's like, you guys better be working. This is my time off, but everybody
make some
else
toys.
Yeah, because if you think about it, he doesn't work one night a year. With that time compression to get it all to the kids, the time probably works out to about 10 years worth of work for him every Christmas.
Well, he's got elves and stuff.
This is true. I'm talking about just the delivery part, though.
Oh, just the time dilation from the faster than light travel. Yeah,
exactly.
He's got
but that's all right. He's used to that.
Yeah.
He's got a very decent Mrs. Claus.
All I heard was he's got elves, and I was imagining Pete with elves, and that was.
Is there a cure for that? Is that a shot of penicillin, Matt, or maybe a broad spectrum antibiotic?
There's up elves.
You need a Z-Pack.
Right.
I think fasting, praying on your knees, wearing a hair shirt, and self-flagellation, you'll be amazed how better you feel when you're all done with that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, especially the self-flagellation.
Especially when you've stopped and you're not doing it anymore, you feel so much better. It's incredible.
Well, hello to everyone watching our antics here.
Every week to make it weird.
Yeah. Well, let's do introductions real quick and then go from there. I'm Mike Davis. If this is your first time watching, I'm the host of this little. It's not probably an accurate. Well, yeah, I'd say it's an accurate example of every episode. But anyway, I host this thing here. Yeah, something like that. And Matt, you got a prize?
Yes, I do. This is the first novel published by the author Stephen Gregory. It's called The Cormorant. I have a shrink-wrapped copy. You could win this short novel if you send an email to easyandprizes@gmail.com and put Cormorant in the subject heading. We draw a winner in like 6 to 8 weeks. It could be you. Why, do you ask? Do I have a copy of the novel Cormorant? The previous summer, when I was preparing for Necronomicon and I was on a panel about birds, I was reading every bit of bird horror I could find. It ended up with a few novels I never got around to reading. This is in unread condition.
Well, you should
Wow.
read Michael Sisko's Ethics, novella Ethics. Yeah.
That was, like I said, that was a year ago when I was reading that stuff.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So have you read a different copy later? Is Cormorant good?
No, I never got around to it. I was like overwhelmed.
So it's a mystery. We don't know.
Let's
I
get
don't
back to
know.
Pete yawning while you were talking. Act like you really.
I
There he goes
I
again.
actually spent most of my time researching bird intelligence, the evolution of birds, the mechanics of flight, and that kind of thing, rather than actually reading the horror bits.
Right.
All right.
Fair
Well,
enough.
everyone watching, glad you're here. And well, before Pete falls asleep, let's have him introduce himself.
I am Mad Eye Pete,
Arr, arr.
and I'm a writer, editor, not a very good editor, and
That's
a
not true.
bookseller, and overwhelmed by this project that I've taken on to myself.
Rick's books.
Yeah, Rick's books. Which hopefully has not gotten more complicated because I went to the storage unit on Friday and there was a puddle of water in front of my unit.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
No.
Uh-oh.
So I've informed management that if they need me to move, they better tell me quickly.
Yeah.
If there's a leak in the ceiling,
but there was no water inside, I hope.
there was no water inside, but
But you don't like to see water anywhere.
Oh,
right. There
Yeah.
should not be water on the floor anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
That's not good.
Anyway,
Bridget.
Hello, I am Bridget, composer, artiste, producer. Always, yeah.
Composer. I thought you said poser.
Poser.
You poser.
Yeah, really.
I
You-
am
you
a
composer.
composter.
You composer, you.
Yes. No. Bridget is a composer. Pete is a decomposer.
I was going to make that joke.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, too bad.
Kim on the live chat says Talk Like a Pirate Day isn't till September 19th. And I said,
Oh.
we're trying to get a jump on it.
It's
I'm
Florida.
impressed.
We're all
Kim, I'm
pirates here.
impressed that you knew it, but I'm not surprised.
We're pacing ourselves, Kim.
The person who selected the date said he just picked that date because it was the most undate. There was like nothing associated with it.
Most undate.
Well, the idea was there was nothing to make it memorable for any other reason.
Let's go on an on-date.
See, my
Well,
problem has been trying to make a calendar of like what horror thing is going on each day for, I don't know, because I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess, but also like for content posting and stuff. And it is crazy how there is pretty much something every damn day.
Where are you posting this?
Somebody's birthday, the anniversary of some movie or something or other. So
Where-
yeah, I think Talk Like a Pirate Day does that could potentially count as horror, I guess.
Bridget.
Well, if you were in my presence all day, it would be a horror.
Lord.
Oh, well, for like a couple places, like Haunting Melody Facebook group, like talking about different horror scores or whatever on relevant days or whatever. Yeah.
The community on Facebook. Just
Yes.
go to Facebook and search for Lovecraft Easing Community.
We could start Talk Like Frankenstein Day.
Yes.
Oh.
I
No,
approve
we-
this message.
No, we have to talk in late 18th century diction about deep philosophical questions. We're talking like Frankenstein Day.
That's true.
What you don't want to
But
hear.
I think
So we-
Frankenstein's Monster Day would be great. You just wear a T-shirt that says "I need coffee" and wander around going, "Ugh."
Ken, you want to introduce
This
yourself?
this is Frankenstein's monster and Frankenstein erasure. They're erasing both at the same time. I object to it. I'm Kenneth Haidt. I'm a tabletop game designer primarily, writer of some other stuff toward Lovecraft, etc. And a beloved bon vivant and raconteur, I guess. Or as my friend Will Heinmarch says, area lush and occultist. So there we are.
You're an institution.
So how's
Exactly.
it going on the Mackin project?
I am hoping to get started this summer when the kids are out of college and I can go to the library and ramp unmolested. I'm hoping that not too far in the distant future, I can have some outlines and stuff laid down. I'm going to be doing a talk on Mackin at Doxicon
Cool.
in October. It's November 1st is the actual date of it. It's in Washington, D.C. I believe it's still at Catholic University. And if anyone wants to go, they should. It's the wildest thing in the world. It's put together by, I believe, the Orthodox Archdiocese of Washington, D.C. And it's about the intersection of faith and horror and science fiction and fantasy. So it's spec fic and religious faith is the subtopic of the con. And I go because I have friends in DC and because it's a lovely little show. And the first time I went, Tim Powers was the guest, which is the
Oh.
reason that
Oh.
I got into their orbit. And now it's just, oh, this is a nice thing. So I'm going to be doing a talk on Mackin, who of course lives the overlap of Christian faith and horror in a way that many people did not.
I don't think I'm familiar with Doxicon.
Well, it's not big, but it is unique, I would say. It's
Yeah.
a thing that not a lot of people not on the radar necessarily, but I enjoy it. So not mandatory, but so I have to have my Mackin ducks in a row by October. So I really have to start cranking on this book in July or August.
All right.
Much like you, Matt, I have to not get distracted by researching bird mechanics. I have to eyes on the prize.
Right.
I gotta
Ken,
check
how do you spell that?
Prize.
Yeah.
Doxicon.
Doxacon, Doxicon. It's in Washington, D.C., or maybe Arlington. I don't know where. It's in the D.C. area. And I think it's Washington. And like I say, it starts October 31st, and then the big day of presentations is November 1st. They do a keynote on the Friday, and then they do most of the stuff. My stuff is on Saturday.
By the way,
Little vending, some fun stuff from various Catholic presses. There's the editor of a Catholic press edition of Dracula, which is a joy to behold. So yeah, lots of good stuff.
That's cool.
I'd like to also just mention again, I have not seen anything official, but I got a message from Brian Callahan that the date of the Lovecraft Film Festival is being pushed forward by 2 weeks.
Yes, he messaged that to, I think, a lot of us out of towners.
Yeah.
So if you already bought your plane ticket, you might want to check the dates.
Yep, change it back.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because I'm sure there are people watching who are going to go.
But we're waiting on an official message on the website, but
Okay.
it looks like it's going to happen. I'm actually not going to, until I see something official, I'm just kind of not going to do anything.
Well,
Yeah.
my theory is that if Brian says they're moving the date, that seemed pretty official to me. So I bought my tickets for then, but I can change them if it comes down to it. So
Let's see here. Oh, our friend Mike DeBronzo, who's a panelist on this show, but hasn't been for the last few weeks because he's dealing with some stuff, is trying to get on his feet, and it's a long story, but basically he's an architect, and he's looking for a job
He's
in that arena.
okay.
Yeah.
He's an architect and he's okay.
Yeah, and he needs money for things like to repair his car, to go on an interview. He's been working from home for years in his chosen profession, and so what do? You work in your jeans or your sweats or whatever, but now he needs to go on interviews and needs interview appropriate clothes. So he's not looking for a handout so much as help him get on his feet, and he'll take it from there. I've posted a link to his GoFundMe in the show notes, pretty near the top. So if you can give a little, I know that he would appreciate it. He's a good guy. So with that said, oh, sorry for Patreons, I'm sorry I haven't uploaded the Shadow Out of Time discussion yet. I will do it tomorrow or Tuesday. I had to go to the dentist again this week, get more. Never mind. I don't even want to talk about it, but that's my excuse. It was pretty painful. And patrons, you know that I posted that deep background interview series with Brian Evanson like a week ago or something. And tomorrow I'm recording another deep background episode with Paul Tremblay. So that'll be really, really interesting. So I'm looking forward to that. Paul's gonna turn my age tomorrow, and I was like, "What? You want to do this on your birthday?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm not doing anything at that time." I'm like, "All right, well, if you're sure, it's not urgent." So it'll be his happy birthday interview, where we'll dig in and get to know the evil side of Paul Tremblay, if such a thing exists. So if you're not a Patreon, it's only $5 a month for stuff like that, and they're some really, really interesting discussions and interviews. So Scott says, "How's the tooth, Mike?" It's better today. I woke up in a lot of pain, but I took some super ibuprofen that they prescribed to me, and it's helping. So yeah. You mentioned, Bridget, that you've been catching up on movies, right? I saw. Did you say that before we started recording?
Yeah.
I saw one this week.
Ooh, which one did you see?
Companion, which I can't remember where it was streaming, but it's got that kid Jack Quaid, I think his name's Jack Quaid, who's in The Boys. That kind of Jimmy Olsen type guy, and it's set in the near future, and it's about it's kind of it's a really dark kind of comedy in a way. It's just what you might think from the word companion. Basically, in the near future, I guess we're going to have androids can be your boyfriend or your girlfriend. So mayhem ensues from there. I saw almost everything coming, but it was really fun to watch in a dark sort of way. So, yeah. What'd you see, Bridget? What are you catching up on?
Yeah, let's see. This week I watched Longlegs finally.
Oh,
Yeah, I know I'm super late to the party. Like I said, catching up.
Creepy.
Yeah, that was very weird.
Did you like it?
I don't know if like is the right word. Like I can appreciate what they were doing with it, and like Nicolas Cage's performance was really creepy and wonderful. Definitely gave me some Zodiac vibes when we were watching. We all watched Zodiac at one time.
Love that movie, Zodiac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had like the whole cipher thing. It was kind of like that. I liked her character, the FBI agent. I think her character was really unique.
I like that actor. She's really good. I forget her name, but she's great.
Yeah, I don't know. There was just something about like I felt like it ended really abruptly.
Yeah.
And that really kind of bugged me because I would have liked a little more of an ending.
Well, the movie switched really abruptly between the sort of everything is elusive and hidden and in the background and all those amazingly well framed too big shots where she's kind of tiny in the corner and there's all kind of darkness in the background. Yeah. And you're desperately trying to piece together what's going on, and then at the last like the fourth act turn, they're like, well, now to explain the movie, which is
Yeah.
like, you won already, movie. You don't have to do this. But I
think
guess
you just nailed it. Yeah.
some studio person said, I don't understand what's going on. And instead of saying, good, that's a badge of honor, they
Mhm.
they did and now we're going to show you how it worked. And it's like,
Right. It's like I was trying to think about the movie. I forget the title, but it reminded me a little bit of it at the time too. It's the one where the demon moves from person to person to person, and every time the demon's
Fallen.
body, they
Fallen,
sing,
Yeah.
Denzel
yeah,
Washington.
it's almost that or whatever.
Yep.
Fallen, yeah, that movie is amazing.
Bridget.
So
Yes,
it's
it
almost
is.
like it was kind of trying. Yes, it is.
Yes, it
trying to
is.
get there, you know. Okay, I don't want to give spoilers, but
No spoilers.
I felt like
Wait. Isn't Fallen
that
like
movie did
15
a
years
better
old?
job. Oh,
It's
sorry.
older than that, I think.
Fallen is 15 years old. Spoil away.
Okay, come on. That
No, I was
how
saying
hard is it?
I don't want to spoil Long Legs for how
Oh.
it connects for me in my brain.
Right.
Oh.
But I feel like what Kev was saying about when they started to explain it, Fallen explained it better.
Mhm.
And you still got the same, you know, okay, now we know what's going on. Now we have a call to action. Yeah, it was just really heavy handed on the explanation. And then after the final scene, it was just kind of like, okay, the movie's over. And I'm like, what?
Mhm.
How's she going to explain all this for one?
It's going to be quite a report.
Yes.
She's
Well,
gonna ask her AI to. Now, this is what happened. Can you summarize
Right.
it for me? And
Oh
print it
boy.
out?
Yeah, in FBI legalese. I saw 28 Years Later yesterday. Went out and
Oh.
saw that in the theater like a
Cool.
good boy. It was
And
really good. I mean, Danny Boyle, I don't know if he can shoot an ugly frame. He's not quite as good at beautiful movies as Ridley is, but he shoots beautiful films, and this is no exception. Even though it was all shot on iPhones, which is insane to me. And it's very much, it's a turn from the first two movies in that it's about, sort of without civilization, they're withdrawing into the mythic of Britain. And what does that mean? So it's sort of interrogating that a little bit. And then also there's just some great zombie action and some cool stuff. Rafe Fiennes is amazing. Rafe Fiennes is always amazing, but he's super amazing in this. And talk about your abrupt endings. This one ends with a whole new story about to start because they're setting up the second movie in the 28 Years Later trilogy, which is annoying. I feel like the movie should have stopped 5 minutes before, but there's no question that it's arresting, right? That you're back on the hook. So well done, I guess, Danny and Alex.
Shot
But
with iPhones, really? The whole
shot, yeah,
movie?
entirely with iPhones. A lot of it is in sort of a pseudo bullet time. So he had a whole bunch of iPhones lined up, all filming so he could cut between the various
Huh.
film capture moments. So the combat scenes are all sort of weird and jittery and stochastic. And then every so often there's just some beautiful diamond-like shot that just nails it. Really, really good. The score is incredible. It's just a great, great movie, even without the association with the other two movies. My wife is a enormous zombie film connoisseur is too strong a word because she does not discriminate, but she way up at the top tier. She really liked it. So
oh, wait. So what's her favorite zombie movie if we've got a zombie fanatic?
it's Night of the Living Dead, of course. It's the OG. That's her
Yeah.
favorite.
Yeah.
I got
So
her the
why-
Criterion edition of that a while back as a Christmas present.
So while you guys were watching good movies,
Eat.
I watched Tarot and Smile too.
Ugh. Smile 2 just reeked of terrible coming off the trailer. Was Tarot any good at all?
No,
Oh, that's too bad.
no,
It's such a good high concept for a movie.
no, it wasn't.
Okay, fair enough.
I
I
mean,
stand corrected.
in the, I suppose at the pre-writing phase, the idea that you could play with a deck of tarot cards that were haunted and then kill like college age kids in various ways is a good idea for a horror movie, but it all depends on you wanting to care about the characters
Yeah.
and doing something novel with death, because we've killed college age kids for 50 years now.
This sounds like a
Only
little bit of
50.
Like-
Final
Well,
Destination.
they keep coming around, Pete.
Yeah,
You don't learn the
goddamn
lesson.
college kids.
As
You
Pete
know,
was saying, like killing off college age kids is a good idea. Pause for a movie.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. The monsters were cool though, right? I liked that part at least.
Yeah. But I'm kind of reminded of House of Cards, the American version. It's like, yeah, you could kill every single character and I wouldn't give a shit.
Yeah.
They're all terrible people.
What about Smile 2?
Smile 2, for 75 to 80% of the film, is just a remake of Smile 1.
With a famous person, yeah.
And then dives into the ending of the American remake of the Ring series, where it goes global. Well, it has the potential to go global.
Yeah.
Okay. If it hadn't been done 15 years ago, that might have been a novel concept.
I asked
But-
you, what about Smile 2? And then Kim wrote in the side chat, Pete sighs. Nailed it.
Yeah, well,
Alan's not
Yeah,
invisible,
it's-
by the way. He's doing something with his son. So,
who?
Alan
What?
Hughes.
Oh,
That's why he's not
yeah,
here.
yeah.
But he's watching. So beyond,
Oh, this was
don't talk about it.
there's some kind of college program, and this is the only weekend he's allowed to visit, and it had to be on Sunday. So it was like his only chance to see his son for the past couple of weeks. That's why he's up there.
Well, I mean, fine if he likes his son better than us. Whatever, you know?
Yeah, well,
Scott said this coming from the guy who watched Apocalypse. But
Look.
there's knowing something's bad and they knew it was bad when they made it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then thinking it's really good, but it's actually bad.
What else were you going to mention, Bridget? Anything else?
Let's see, what else did I watch this week? Recently I saw Alan mentioned something on Tubi. On Tubi, I watched a movie called Slay. It was so dumb and hilarious. And I think they knew it was dumb and hilarious because it's basically like a bunch of drag queens who scheduled their show at the wrong bar. And then there ends up being vampires there. And
So,
They
so
have-
it's basically exactly like Sinners.
yeah.
Really? Or
kind of with drag queens and bikers that need to come together as one to fight the vampires and in heels.
That's inspiring.
It's just hilarious. And I will probably rewatch it a couple times. It was so funny.
Did they
I-
slay them?
Yes,
Did they
exactly.
slay it?
Slay.
I also watched Heart Eyes Killer.
What?
The Heart Eyes Killer.
Hard Eyes Killer. Okay.
Oh, Kelly told me he liked that.
This has got to be okay. So essentially, it's a Hallmark movie with a slasher.
What? Well, Matt should like it then.
I'm
Oh.
dead serious. I'm dead serious. There is a woman.
That's not a slam. He watches Hallmark movies all the time.
First of all, I love Hallmark movies because like they're so predictable and yet but they've mastered the art of pulling heartstrings.
Oh, you know what? I'm
Which
watching
is
their
fine.
current series about their baking shows, where they have this woman who's a baker and she solves murder mysteries
Yeah,
to
I
the
knew
Right.
the word
her
baker was
boyfriend who's
going to
a
come up
cop.
soon.
Hallmark movies.
Anyway, Hard Eyes Killer is essentially like this woman is about to lose her job. She has to work with a consultant. There is some chemistry there. they actually meet before they meet at the office, and then the Hard Eyes killer who kills on Valentine's Day and only kills couples mistakes them for a couple and becomes their target. Um, and they have to. There are lots and lots of tense scenes that could possibly lead to romance. And of course, through the course of being hunted by a serial killer, they fall in love.
Did you like
You
it?
do. I'm trying to convince Mandy to watch it with me, as a date movie.
What? Just
So,
tell her it's a romantic movie and don't tell her the
Yeah.
rest.
Yeah.
Wow, you're gonna get in trouble.
I'm gonna go get in so much trouble.
The lady, I know I haven't seen it yet, but for those of you who have Peacock, I have that because Danielle's got a lot of.
Black Phillip has joined the chat.
Huh?
Black Phillip, my wife's cat, has joined the chat.
Oh, hi Philip. There are a lot of. Is it sexist to say there's a lot of? It's got a lot of chick TV on Peacock. I mean, all of the all of the reality stuff. All the reality. This is why I have Peacock.
You mean all the Star Trek shows? Hell yeah.
No, you're thinking of Paramount.
That's Paramount.
A lot of them got moved.
Oh, well, the lady in the yard is on Peacock. I noticed.
Okay.
I haven't seen it yet.
Peacock has Poker Face, which is
Right.
what's worth
Yes.
talking about.
I
Although I haven't seen the second season
I haven't either yet, but
because I don't have Peacock.
Great.
Yeah.
Episode
amazing.
1 of season 3 of The Gilded Age has dropped on Max, so cool.
There you go.
Yay. What were you gonna say, Pete?
I don't remember.
Okay. My plan worked. So yeah,
Okay.
the lady in the yard. So I saw an interview, Pete, you're gonna love this. The upcoming Superman movie. Maybe you already
Yeah.
know. I guess in this movie, Clark has his glasses, which is always a real big suspension of disbelief, even worse than all his powers.
Yeah.
That a pair of glasses hides the fact that you're Superman. Well, apparently these are hypno glasses, and they hypnotize people.
That's straight out of the comics.
I know
That's
it is.
Silver Age
Yeah.
canon.
Yeah, it is. But I didn't know that for the Silver Age, or at least I didn't remember. It's kind of been in my head canon that Superman has hypnotic power that he just doesn't really even realize that he has it to keep people from making that connection. But
I more think like it's like, so Clark Kent is with Lois Lane. He takes his glasses off and puts them on the table, and she says, "Is that a new table?"
Yes, that was the same joke I was about to tell.
I haven't heard that. Oh, but yeah, I mean, end of Superman 2, he had a hypnotic power of some sort, right? If you remember what he did to
I
Lois,
don't.
made her
Oh,
forget that.
maybe,
Yeah. Okay. Well, that topic lasted less time than I thought it would. If
No,
Alan
but
was here,
I'm
though,
really.
Well, talking about movies, I think we could at least talk about like vampires. That's a genre where there's always new movies coming down the pike. And we mentioned last week, if you haven't seen it, the movie Sinners is so well worth a watch for so many reasons. What have you done for me lately? So there's like a couple of vampire movies.
you're asking vampires, what have you done for me lately?
Well, yeah, it's like so there's the upcoming movie, I guess, Dracula: A Love Tale. This has sort of been done a little bit in Bram Stoker's Dracula. I kind of think we're like, was it Gary Oldman said to Winona Ryder, "I have crossed oceans of time to find you," which was, of course, he delivered it maybe a little better than I did. I don't know.
Maybe.
6 of 1.
It's probably just the lighting and stuff. Well, the idea is the same that good old Vlad is an immortal vampire, but he is missing the true love of his life, and he, I guess, bumps into her in New York. Is that the premise? Right?
I
Something
don't
like
know
that.
if it's in New York or if it's moved back to London. All I know is it's Luc Besson doing it, which makes it automatically worth a watch. Um, and which, by the way, is a system that has failed me numerous times. But
Oh, you're right.
um,
It is London.
yeah, and so again, all credit, if that's the word we're wanting, goes to Richard Matheson for inventing that in the script of the 1973 Dracula, starring Jack Palance as Dracula.
Um, well, there's another vampire movie coming up that sort of is a Dracula movie called Brides. Um, I think it's set in Italy or something like that. This couple gets in, they're newlyweds. They get invited to visit the castle of this mysterious count. So I don't know anything else about it. And then there's another vampire movie that is coming up, which is called Devour. And this actually has the potential to be so bad, but I'm kind of looking forward to it more than the others because it's a female heavy metal rock band who have to fight. They're vampires and they have to fight cannibals or something like that.
1,
Yeah.
2, 3 vampire movies.
Yeah, but honestly, the whole genre has simply been sputtering since Life Force.
That's your terminus ad quem,
Wow.
is it, Pete? Life Force.
Life Force is the quintessential vampire film. We got Patrick Stewart.
Mhm.
What else do you need?
Oh, I don't know. A coherent script.
What's your favorite vampire movie, guys?
Needs a script.
Favorite vampire movie, guys? Mine's Only Lovers Left Alive. So
It's still probably Horror of Dracula, the 58 Christopher Lee Dracula. Very hard to get over that. I think if you remove Dracula or you move Christopher Lee, probably Let the Right One In or Near Dark. Hard to say.
Those are great.
I like Near Dark. But Fright Night's a pretty good film.
Yeah, Fright Night's great, original, except no substitutes.
The Hunger.
Yeah, very classy. The trouble with The Hunger is that very little happens in it. It's not the
Yes.
trouble, but it is maybe it would be what would keep it out of my S tier of vampire films.
Which is funny because that's actually kind of what I like about it.
Yeah, no, it's very much like a hour and a half music video, and it's great and it's
Right.
beautiful, but
Yeah.
You got to say, just for nostalgia purposes, it's the Bela Lugosi Dracula with all of its problems. Just because I think I saw it when I was 4, it's just like that was vampirism to me. But there's so many good ones. It's like, fortunately, we don't have to choose. Because I liked Nadja, because I really liked the look of that movie, and I liked Addiction.
mhm.
Just there were several vampire movies in the 90s that I really enjoyed. I even like John Carpenter's Vampires has so many problems, but it's got James Woods chewing up the scenery. It's just like that alone is probably worth the admission price.
Yeah. Also underappreciated is the look, I love the American, but the Spanish language version shot on the same sets
Yeah,
is I think actually a superior film.
yeah. In every way except for the casting of Dracula, that movie just buries the Todd
Yeah.
Browning.
Well, it's because I think Browning was falling down intoxicated for most of the filming, right?
There's a lot of problems with that movie that no doubt start there, but It's, you know,
Plus
when you see someone basically doing a shot for shot remake of the same film on the same sets and just
same
doing it
time.
so much better on every level, it's really amazing. And the trouble is, the Dracula is just terrible, and Dracula movies live or die on the strength of their Dracula. You get a bad Dracula, it's a bad Dracula movie. I don't know what to tell you.
and didn't it like it was shot like in the evenings when they
Yep,
had left
yep.
for the day?
Shot at nights,
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
That's cool.
and
I,
the
I, I have
actress
a
playing Mina was worried it was haunted. Oh, such a good story.
yeah. I have a soft spot for Love at First Bite.
Heck
Everyone
yeah.
loves Love at First Bite.
The script is just fabulous, and Hamilton just chews up that role.
Mhm.
He's a great foil for Richard Benjamin. So
No, you, Peter, getting sleepier and
oh,
sleep.
you are getting sleepy.
Was the name of the movie Byzantium? Is that the one sort of
Yes.
set in
Oh, that's a
Ireland?
good one.
Yep.
I liked it because the vampire origin I thought was really cool. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a good movie regardless, but I just thought this was a very sort of unique thing that you have to go to this place.
Mhm.
Notice nobody is saying any of the Anne Rice vampire films.
Well, I do like the movie. The first
I
one.
adore it though.
Yeah.
I adore interview.
Is anyone watching the TV
I
show?
thought I made no,
I
but
tried
People
to
keep
watch.
watching the TV show and telling me, "Oh, it's really good," and I think
No, it's
I
not.
don't know that that's right, but
I
I don't
tried
know.
to watch the first season. I just couldn't get through it. It was
Yep.
slog. So,
Yeah.
Bridget, did you give us your favorite yet? I don't think you did.
no, because y'all named about 500 of them and I can't decide.
That's fair. Yeah.
I don't know. There's just too many. I really enjoy the genre, and I can enjoy the really philosophical, amazingly crafted vampire movies, and I can enjoy the schlock equally. And I don't know. Trying to name a bad vampire movie is probably easier.
The Italian Planet of Vampires.
Planet of the Vampires is great. How dare you? That's a great movie. That movie, frankly, Ridley Scott should be sending checks to Mario Bava
Yes.
for Planet of the Vampires.
Oh my
That
gosh.
movie is
Wait.
amazing.
What's the one with Zsa Zsa Gabor?
Oh, that one I don't know.
But
Or
it's
no,
called
I'm
Green
thinking of
Acres.
Outer Space.
It's the place to be.
Anyway,
You guys may or may not know, but Joe Lansdale has a collection coming out in October.
Yep, I have it on pre-order.
Great. The Essential Horror of Joe R. Lansdale. And Casey sent me an arc, and I sent her an email back, but I think she was not answering emails on the weekend. But see if we can get Joe on the show or not. That'd be great. Sometime in September. The book comes out October 7th, and this is one you really do want. And as well as this one here, The God of the Razor. It's got the novella, right? The God of the Razor, and it's got other God of the Razor stories in it. God of the Razor by Joe R. Lansdale. Really nice edition here. I don't know if it's on Kindle or not, but they sent me a really nice edition. But there's something really interesting in Joe's introduction. He talks a lot about night runners. Night runners is what I meant to say a few minutes ago, novella. And then he goes, as for the rest of this collection, it contains stories that belong to the night runners genre, meaning stories that were lifted from or inspired by the book, as well as stories later written about my character, God of the Razor. You'll like this, Pete, because we've talked about this before on the show. The only one that isn't here is Subway Jack, which was written for a Batman anthology. DC would not let us reprint it, at least not without us paying them a ton of money. That's too bad. King of Shadows is my favorite of those represented here in the book. But the Batman story is actually my favorite of all the God of the Razor stories. Dang it.
Yeah, this is cautionary tale. And I've been invited to anthologies to work on other people's IP and looked at the contract and said, I can't do this.
Yeah. That's DC also
Well, yeah.
their,
But yeah, you run into this problem of you're never going to be able to reprint this in your own
Mhm.
collection.
Right.
well, this is the collection he's talking about, and it came
Yeah.
out about the same time as the movie, The Further Adventures of Batman, 14 all new adventures of the Cape Crusader, and you'll only find this edition
Subway
online. You're not good, yeah, secondhand. Uh, Even if you enjoy none of the other stories, it's worth the money for Subway Jack. That has long been. I told Joe that was my favorite uh, Batman story that's in short story form or novel format, and
Yeah.
it really, really is good. And it's almost kind of a Lovecraftian Batman story as well.
Yes.
Yeah, speaking of Lovecraftian, Lansdale also has another anthology coming out, In the Mad Mountains,
Right,
which sort of accumulates his specific Lovecraft related stuff.
right.
Yeah.
So that's two books you have to get.
Is that out already or no?
I don't know.
Well, I was
I
gonna
haven't seen
say
it.
while you're waiting for the essential horror of Joe R. Lansdale, pick up God of the Razor. Whet
Is
your
that a new
appetite.
edition?
Well,
Is that a new edition?
It's 2007. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
So
highly out of print.
all right.
But
Well, then I guess I just enticed people with something they could never have.
yeah. Um,
But all that is to say, you really want the essential horror. And if
yes.
you're a Lovecraft fan you're a fan of cosmic horror, what the one that Matt mentioned, Mad Mountains. Yeah, Pete
In the
Gore
Mad Mountains.
in the
Yeah.
Mad Mountains. Okay.
Joe Lansdale did a great script adaptation of the Dunwich Horror for a comic book series. Um,
It,
from I
it
think
wasn't an adaptation. I would argue about that. It's more like a sequel
okay. So
or
yeah,
a spin-off sequel, something like that. It wasn't really a retelling of the Dunwich Horror. It was modern characters.
okay.
Um, I think um, one thing I liked about that series is it had, in addition to the Dunwich Horror stuff, it had, I think, M. Menton or M3, the artist. He illustrated the Hound, and that was gorgeous.
Yes.
Well, I have good news for those of you who are wondering why another adaptation of The Stand hasn't been done yet this year.
No. I saw this. This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah,
How many is this? Are we on the fourth adaptation of The Stand?
third or fourth, third at least.
They're going to keep doing it until we obey.
Yeah, God, that and what was this first one? Can't. My mind went
Carrie?
blank. Yeah, that and Carrie. We're gonna do that one again. I just wish, with all of my heart, the man has such talent that he had written something besides these two books, and that they had, a wealth of. They had more stories to dig from, more stories to adapt. That would have
Well,
been great.
he died young. It's just
Mhm.
a sad thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think that
He
means
was
like
torn
you're.
apart by that coked up Saint Bernard, I think is what happened to him.
I think if you're to the point where your writing is getting multiple adaptations, then you've like verged into the Shakespeare realm
Yeah,
where people, I want, so many different actors are like, well, now I want to play that character. That's a pretty nice trophy right there.
it's a good
I
point.
don't know. Are actors really lining up to play Randall Flagg or Trash Can Man or any of the immortal characters from The
Well,
Stand?
everybody wants to play
Could
Trash
be.
Can.
Well,
Man.
Nicolas Cage would.
Well, yeah,
That'd be great.
that's why I said actors.
Oh my God, that would be
Who
great.
would be a good Randall, like the best Randall?
Brad Dourif.
Oh yeah, he would be good.
Well, they are doing a new one. Having said all that, they're doing a TV. They're doing a limited run series or whatever we're calling it these days of his book that came out about 5 years ago, The Institution, or no, The Institute. Excuse
The
me.
Institute, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the trailer. There have been some changes, and I'm not sure it's going to be as good, but I understand why they did it, I guess, because the Institute starts out talking about this person who was a police officer and now is a night knocker in a small Georgia town, which is on a railroad hub, and that becomes important later. So you
Wait,
get this
what are we talking
introduction.
about? The same
The Institute, yeah.
about this with the school that kids get kidnapped
Yes.
to?
So it starts
Okay.
off with this guy who's an ex-cop or whatever, and he becomes a night knocker in Georgia. And then suddenly his story just gets dropped and it becomes important like
Oh, the
two.
book, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so but
Sorry.
I think in the new adaptation, he is going to be living in the town where the Institute is
Yeah.
and start making inquiries that he shouldn't, so they can keep it all confined into one geographic space, I guess. Furthermore, it looks to me like whereas the kids really didn't have much sense of anything that they did was extraordinary, abnormal, they have it in this show that they're like showing them to have more overt, mysterious powers.
Yeah.
So there are going to be changes, but I'm still interested because I enjoyed the book well enough.
I enjoyed the book. I won't read it again just because personally, it's not something I want to read again. It's a damn good novel, though. I don't even know that I'll watch the series because if you watch that trailer, basically you're seeing a bunch of kids get tortured. Yeah, that's what it boils down to, you know?
So it's
Um,
like tarot.
huh?
So it's like tarot.
I haven't
Those
seen
are
Tara.
college age kids. That's a
Oh,
whole different.
college. Yeah, college age kids are different than kids.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Get it right.
yeah. It's like I said to someone, you know, well, he's only 21, not talking about my son. And that, I, I said, there's nothing wrong with being 21. And he goes, well, I'm pretty sure there is something wrong with being 21, but you don't know it at the time.
You could make the same argument about the Conan movie, like they took little child Conan and
Yeah,
put him on
it's
that
true.
wheel, and that was torture, and yet
But it was also only like
it
5 or 10 minutes of the
it
movie.
was like one of the greatest movies ever made.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
that's just
Matt
me.
will
That's my
save
opinion. I could be wrong.
we'll have a whole episode for Matt Carpenter's favorite child torture films.
That's
And
great. Let me get my pen. Yes,
yeah,
that's
What
perfect.
was it, the one about the little kids playing piano for that mad scientist in the
yeah.
60s? The Five Fingers of
5,000 Fingers of Dr.
Dr.
T.
Terwilliger is a fabulous movie, and I own it, and we watch it every Christmas.
So talk to me about child torture movies.
I just saying it's probably going to be good, but I probably won't see it. So you guys can report on it at some point in the future if you want. So yeah. So what, Pete?
Yeah, sorry, I coughed.
Oh,
The
uh,
amount the amount of dust and debris that are in these books is just tremendous, and it's driving my allergies crazy.
You're getting book lung.
Yeah, I got book. Do you know what book finger is? I
mm,
didn't know what it was until I thought I was getting like a virus, like because I would get all these little bumps on my fingers, and I showed it to my doctor, and I happened to be wearing one of my bookstore T-shirts that day, and she says, "Oh, you deal with books. This is book finger." Like, what the fuck is book finger? It's like all the dry pages in the book suck the moisture out of your skin,
wow.
and you end up with blisters, little micro blisters.
Were
You
you
missed the chance, Pete. You could have said, Book finger. Ba, ba.
Yeah.
He's the man with the bookish touch. He's got book finger.
were you afraid it was leprosy? or something?
I thought it was like a soil virus because I was doing a lot of gardening at the time, but yeah, it turns out that there's this other thing that
Wow.
just
Makes
yeah.
sense though. Now that you
Yeah.
explained it.
So
Let that be a warning to the kids out there.
yeah, just
Yes.
don't 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 handle books, kids. Leave it to the adults.
The
Mhm.
pen is
Oh,
mightier than the sword.
Yes.
that we deter kids.
Kids all get screen finger instead. It's much healthier.
Oh yeah.
I would imagine anyone here or listening to this is a fan of Laird Barron.
Mhm.
Well, okay.
Almost everyone. Okay. If you're not aware, if you're a fan of Laird's, as you should be, and you're not aware, you guys probably are, but if you're watching and you're not aware or listening, Laird Barron mappingproject.com. It's really, really cool. Um, it's it's let me just read from the front page. This website is a personal project I started somewhere in 2021. Its main goal, next to just being fun for me, is to map the world Laird Barron has created with his novels and short stories. There's countless intriguing connections and details hidden throughout his work, and there's way too little online resources to dig into. So, like a lot of Barron readers probably do, I dove into all the little puzzles and started taking notes. And then he talks about using Obsidian to map all this stuff. If you go to lairdbarronmappingproject.com, on the left side of the screen, if you're on a PC, you'll see a list of all the stories and books and so forth. And if you click on them, it tells you about whatever you clicked on. But also with Obsidian, which I use for something else, it's got an interactive graph. And so if you look at the right side of the page under the words interactive graph, then you'll see the tiny version of this. And then in the top right corner, you'll see an arrow. Don't click that. Click the three circle thing next to it. And it's really cool. It gives you a live version of the mapping project. Um, I don't know, what do you even call these things? Just a bunch of links in 3D form, 2D form. When you go there, you'll see what I mean. And for example, you can hover over, um, Isaiah Coleridge, and you can see it, a visual representation of everywhere it links to, like Fierce Sun, Alter Ego. It's just I know he's got a lot of fans, and I wanted to get this out there, and so make people aware of it. I asked Laird today. I said, who's the guy that's doing that? I can't find his name on the website. He said he has a little bit about himself, but not really who he is, which is fine. Doesn't have to, and Laird didn't know either. So, but whoever he or she is, this is really cool. Bear in mind there are spoilers in this thing, but this is a real rabbit hole you can fall down in exploring. It's really, really cool.
Have
Um,
you um have you watched the documentary about the conspiracy theories around The Shining?
hmm, no,
Yes. Room 237. It's
Yes.
really good.
yeah,
Talk about rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Like one of the things I love about that is the fact that the manager's office can't exist
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
space.
The layout of the building is wrong.
just like
Yeah.
Seinfeld's apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There.
And that's where you get into all kinds of things like Euclidean geometry. So in
Yes.
Seinfeld. So to sum this up, he writes, it's not exhaustive. This map is about pointing out how certain things are connected and gives a general overview of Barron's universe. There's probably loads of people out there with a better grip on Barron's works. But here's the point. All tidbits of information and insight seem scattered around the internet until now. Um, and he emphasizes in another place that they're just no, here it is. They're just notes. They're not meant to be polished blog posts or well-written articles. Some notes might be comprehensive, but others might be ridiculously incomplete or downright wrong. It's basically something he's doing for fun for himself, but he's put it out there for the readers to use and win
That's
as
how you
well.
become a scholar.
That's true.
That's how you, when you do stuff like this before anybody else, you become
You're,
That's right.
the
a
authority.
Laird Barron scholar.
Yeah.
It's really impressive, and because I'm familiar with Obsidian, I know just how hard he's worked on this.
I know.
So yeah, check that out. LairdBarronMappingProject.com. I don't remember if I
Well,
linked to it in the show notes or not, but
Mike, it's that time again. I gotta go cook dinner.
all right. See you, buddy.
All right,
Oh,
good
get
night,
some
guys.
rest, Pete.
Yeah,
See you,
there. I put
Pete.
it in the side chat now. So yeah, I wanted to pass that on. If I ever figure out who it is, then we'll ask him if he wants to come on the show. So, and then, you guys, Matt, you familiar? Well, you got all of you guys probably are familiar with the new telescope, the Vera Rubin telescope in Chile.
Hmm. I
That
mean, I've
thing,
seen the stuff on Twitter.
that's amazing. That's amazing. Um, I jotted down some notes, and it's first of all, it's got a huge 3200 megapixel digital camera, and in its first year, uh, it will collect more astronomical data than all previous telescopes combined. That's really amazing when you think about it. And if you Google this, Vera Rubin, you'll find a lot of news articles on it. And the observatory also has a website as well. It's rubinobservatory.org, which I just, you know, there are negative things about the times that we live in, but there are some hugely positive things too. And I think about, I've been a little astronomy nerd all my life since being a little kid growing up in the 70s. And to tell, if I told that little child version of myself, someday you're going to be able to see what the telescopes can see in almost real time that they see it, I'd be like, wow, I can't wait till that Star Trek future gets here. But you can go to their website and do that. So the question on Matt's mind is, how does this affect my life, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
No, I'm
Now,
just, it's interesting. Like, I don't know enough to speak, but like they've got this James Webb Space Telescope, which
mhm.
is doing this amazing exploration and mapping. And what's the, what does this add? I mean, is there a different profile? What is this
Well,
going to be better for?
that's a good question. Grab my notes here. The First of all, just its ability, it's the best telescope yet, is I guess the real dumb way to put it.
It's up in the Andes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in Chile.
All right. So some notes. Every 3 nights, it's going to photograph the entire sky. That's the first thing. In its first 10 hours, it discovered 10 million more, not stars, 10 million more galaxies that we were previously unaware of in the first 10 hours. So maybe that gives you a little bit of an idea of how powerful this thing is. I don't I don't have the know-how to give you all the answers, but I wrote down a few things. Um, and maybe if anyone out there is saying, "Well, how does this affect my life?" Might go on to the next topic. It doesn't, but you know, for me, life's just not about just getting by. It's about having a sense of wonder about the universe that we live in too. Um, in its first year, Rubin will collect more astronomical data than all previous telescopes combined, cataloging. So right there, that answers your question, Matt. I mean, if that gives you any idea, cataloging billions of new objects and producing a new map of the night sky every 3 days. So, as of June 2025, it's already discovered. It just went live like what, 2 weeks ago? Does that seem right? Over 2,000 new asteroids in our solar system that we weren't aware of. Millions of galaxies and stars, as I said. That's just a tiny preview. The other thing I want to mention is it's called the Vera Rubin Observatory for a reason. Vera Rubin was a gal who was born in 1928, died in 2016, which is too bad. She didn't get to see this. But, when she was a little girl, she was really, really interested in astronomy. She had that sense of wonder about the universe, kept it her whole life. And she was told things like, obviously, in that, growing up in the 30s, that's not for little girls. You need to, study something else. And she didn't listen to him. Women have enough struggles with that sort of thing today, but back then, imagine what courage it must have taken to forge her own path in astronomy. That's one of the reasons why this telescope and observatory is named after her. The other thing is, it's not just because she was a female astronomer. That's the least of the reasons. One of the reasons is she contributed. She's called the mother of dark matter. So you've probably heard a lot about dark matter, over the past few years and what it is, what it might be. But she's the one who discovered that it's probably out there. And the way that she figured this out is really, really neat. She discovered that, like, the Milky Way is a spiral galaxy, right? So it spins. And she discovered that the stars on the fringe of the galaxy are orbiting the center at about the same speed as stars near the center, which, if you think about it, what's a good example here?
An LP.
Yeah, that's a great example. I wrote down something else, but yeah, a carousel. That's another example. So the people on the edge of the carousel, they're not going as fast as the people in the middle. So she's like, what the hell? This should not be. The stars on the fringe should be orbiting faster or orbiting slower than the ones in the center. So that's how they, if discovered is the right word, since we don't know hardly anything about it, dark matter. So there must be something else out there that's providing like this invisible edge or halo around the Milky Way. And it makes up, I think I remember, about 87%. Think about that, of the Milky Way, of the matter in the Milky Way, is dark matter. That's incredibly strange and weird to think about. But she's like, there must be a hell of a lot of it out there because these stars are rotating at the same speed as the ones in the center. So, yeah.
I read a little bit while we were talking. So apparently, it's got a larger aperture by 2 meters than the James Webb Space Telescope, but apparently the James Webb and the Hubble are more designed to focus on specific areas and objects, and the Vera Rubin is to look at much larger swaths of the sky, as it were.
Yeah. So I think that, in the same way that weird fiction and noir can kind of go hand in hand in some ways, I think cosmic horror and an interest in astronomy is the same.
Well, I mean, it clearly was for HP. I mean,
Yeah.
he was an astronomer, amateur astronomer for his whole life. He wrote astronomy columns for Providence area newspapers. Astronomy just suffuses everything he wrote. So, yeah, I mean, you can only imagine what he would have made of dark matter, or what he would be uh, vibing with from the Rubin or from the James Webb, the new
Yeah.
looks. I mean, we're basically seeing the energy from the Big Bang now on the Rubin. We've got, the center of the universe as far as we can tell, and there's just big old puffy clouds of energy there. There's nothing else. So it's like, well, it's so far away that we're seeing, all the way back basically to, the beginning of visible energy from that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but in Lovecraft's day, they were just then discovering that there was a lot more to the universe than our galaxy.
Yeah, right. Edwin Hubble and Harlow Shapley, between them, basically demonstrated that the Milky Way was not the universe, that the Magellanic Clouds were galaxies, that Andromeda was not a nebula, that it was a galaxy. And then they just start running the numbers, and they say, oh no, there's a lot of galaxies out there, and we're not in the mix for biggest, most important galaxy.
No.
And
Lovecraft was there for the initial reporting on Einstein's important papers.
mhm.
There's a book, if you want to get it, called When the Stars Are Right, by Edward Gaumont and Horace Smith, describing Lovecraft's fascination with astronomy. So if you're an utter ridiculous geek collector, you may want to pick that up. Of
Or
course,
you've
you may
already
want to
picked
buy,
it up.
yeah,
Yeah.
or you may want to, like, a KFC 8-piece isn't too far different from the price.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thanks for what you guys contributed, because I knew if I brought this up, you guys would have some thoughts on the subject and explain it probably better than I did. But even that's a really great point, Ken. But I would think I think I would be thinking this hell of a lot of people would be thinking that cosmic horror goes hand in hand with astronomy, even if Lovecraft had never been an amateur astronomer, because just that theme of we're obviously the universe doesn't care about us. If you know anything about the universe at all and how huge it is, and what are we compared to that? I mean, when we know so much about the universe already, and then the Rubin goes online and discovers 10 million new galaxies in the first 10 hours, that's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Truly mind-boggling.
I mean, this is maybe off topic, but
Yeah.
a
Well,
lot of
not
what
here, it's not.
Lovecraft contributes is because he's the guy on the spot. As you say, he's the guy writing the best horror fiction in the world when Einstein is publishing, when Shapley and Hubble are demonstrating the size of the universe, when Rutherford is demonstrating how old the Earth is, when Haeckel has out Darwined Darwin and demonstrated the degree to which mankind is a mere finger on the evolutionary scope of life on Earth. And all of this is moving in the same direction, the direction of the universe at best being irrelevant to us and at worst being hostile. And you can posit that without Lovecraft, maybe another writer would have done that. Fritz Leiber or whoever. He was doing science encyclopedias in Chicago. Maybe he becomes the guy. But the fact of the matter is Lovecraft did do it and changed horror forever. And so we don't really have a window into that universe where, Fritz Leiber invented cosmic horror or perfected cosmic horror, depending on how you define it, or created it for our modern era.
That's
And
not off topic at all. So
yeah, and I mean, the question of would Fritz Leiber have even bothered to do it without Lovecraft? Because of course, Fritz Leiber is just one of the many, many people that was inspired by Lovecraft. So, I think you're right that the connection seems obvious, but I just want to say that it seems obvious to us now because we're in Lovecraft's world. It might have taken a while to seem obvious to other people, because it's not like, I mean, to some extent, yeah, Mary Shelley's The Last Man is cosmic horror, but Mary Shelley, as great as she is not, overturning, the Gothic in the way that Lovecraft did.
Yeah.
Um,
No, totally
it's
agree.
just a
And
different situation.
no, I always just say when I talk about astronomy, which I've done from time to time on this show, um, I always imagine someone tuning in for the first time and going, I thought this was about cosmic horror and weird fiction and everything. This guy's talking about Andromeda. Well, because they do go hand in hand, cosmic horror and uh, these kinds of observations.
Yeah.
So if again, just like the Laird Barron mapping project, if anyone out there is not aware, didn't know what this was, you've seen reference to it, that's what it is. And you can go to the Rubin Observatory's website and you can see all this for yourself. Which, I mean, Matt, you've told that story from time to time about the guy you were on a plane with the guy and his Wi-Fi issue. You,
Huh.
I'm sorry that we're just living in
Oh yeah,
such
yeah,
an
yeah. Okay,
amazing
so it's like
age.
so
Yeah,
it's this guy's like flying, and the network goes out on the plane, and he turns to this other person and says, "That's just typical." And the other guy happened to be a guest on some talk show and said, and here he is sitting in a chair 8 miles up in the air.
yeah.
That's just
I think
typical,
you left your sense of wonder back there in Memphis, buddy.
right?
So yeah, it's nice to be living in a time where you can access this for yourself, and that you're living in a time where they're making these discoveries. It's exciting to me. So
Mhm.
anyway, and you can't say enough what courage Vera Rubin had to have had, and the massive contributions that she made to astronomy. There's no way that I can understand what she went through, but I can see how much courage it must have taken. And she forged a way for women. She forged a path for women in later years. Not just astronomy, but hey, this lady's interested in astronomy and she did it. I'm interested in XYZ and I can do it too. So, yeah. Um, yeah, I think that's close to all I have, except, oh, one of my patrons, Seth, sent me this.
Oh, cool.
Neat.
Yeah, for the book house. It's a star projector for people listening, not watching. Um, and I haven't had time with a dentist and everything to get it out of the box, but I'm going to do that tonight. I'll
Neat.
take a picture of it. Yeah. That to speaking of astronomy, yeah. So Seth, that's a pretty apropos gift. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And you guys got anything else you want to talk about? Wow. By your silence, I presume there is none. I'm reading a pretty interesting book called The Flicker Men. I just started it last night by Ted Kosmatica, if I'm saying his last name right. And
Ev-
probably not. Yeah, here's the synopsis, which this is really kind of a good segue. If Stephen Hawking and Stephen King wrote a novel together, you'd get The Flicker Men. Brilliant, disturbing, and beautifully told. The synopsis is a quantum physicist shocks the world with a startling experiment, igniting a struggle between science and theology, free will and fate. Eric Argus is a washout. An old friend gives, I'm not going to read the whole thing. An old friend gives him another chance, and within 3 months to produce new research, obviously he's a scientist, Eric replicates the paradoxical double slit experiment, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, to see for himself the mysterious dual nature of light and matter. A simple but unprecedented inference blooms into a staggering discovery about human consciousness and the structure of the universe. Um, his findings are celebrated and condemned in equal measure, and as Eric seeks to understand the unfolding revelations, he must evade shadowy pursuers who believes he knows entirely too much already. That could that synopsis that could turn out to be really hokey, but so far I'm loving it. As
Cool.
you guys, yeah. Do you have a question, Matt? No. As you guys know, I highlight a lot with my Kindle books. A couple of highlights I copied down. After a while, quantum mechanics starts to affect your worldview. This guy says to a friend, and his friend goes, "What does that mean?" And he says, "The more research I did, the less I believed." And he goes, "In quantum mechanics?" "No," I said, "in the world." So that's just, I'm sold. I'm in like 3 or 4 chapters in, and I'm really liking it. So I wanted to recommend it, even though I haven't finished it yet. I'm assuming that it'll be good. And it's also, I saw it's on sale at Audible if you're an audiobook person. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Hey, I'll bet Matt knows Joseph Payne Brennan, the author of Feaster from Afar and some other Lovecraftian stuff. Has anybody read his Lucius Leffing detective stories besides me? I just finished the last of the ones that I had to read the other night.
No, I haven't. Haven't heard of him.
I don't think anyone has. Matt was my only hope here.
Well,
And
there's an awful lot of them.
yeah,
They go from like the 70s to the 90s.
60s, I think even before then.
Ah,
Um, the basic story is that Joseph Payne Brennan had a self-published magazine that he would do, a little magazine as they call it. And in each issue, he did an adventure of Lucius Leffing, who was an occult detective. And so, a ghost happens and he solves it. Very, very good, uh, uh, nice little occult detective stories. Not nice in the sense of sweet, but nice in the sense of gem-like.
Are they Hallmark Lovecraftian stories?
No,
No.
no, there's no kissing. I'm sorry.
Oh, damn it.
No one goes back to the haunted house and meets the handyman and blows off their fiance. That would be a good Hallmark story, wouldn't it though? Like Haunting of Hill House, but Hallmark. Anyway, the what happened was Frank Belknap Long, who was his acquaintance, was the editor for a knockoff of Alfred Hitchcock and Ellery Queen called Mike Shane's Mystery Magazine. And he said, you should write those, but there's no market for an occult detective. But if you just make him a regular detective, I can buy them. And so he starts doing them as regular detective stories. And then Alfred Hitchcock started picking them up, I assume paid better than Mike Shane. And so he did a whole ton of them that are just sort of standard detective stories. And then every so often would write another occult one to fill out a collection. And he self-published the first collection. The other two were published by Donald M. Grant, or Donald L. Grant, I forget. And then he had a novel called Act of Providence, which it takes place at the first World Fantasy Convention in Providence in 1975, and is like every terrible convention novel you've ever read, where, I met this guy, and then I met this guy, and then I met this guy, except this one is, oh, and by the way, there's a cavern full of troglodytes underneath Providence, Rhode Island, and Lovecraft knew about it. And so I don't know that I can recommend them per se, but I really enjoyed reading them, even the conventional mystery ones, which are not quite Holmes pastiches, but they're not that. Joseph Payne Brennan is the Watson, so he's called Brennan in the stories, etc. And it's just a weird doorway into a literary world that is basically gone now. There's no more small mystery magazines, I don't think, anymore. The small science fiction magazines are hanging on by a thread. And Brennan writing these is just it's just a wild sort of a doorway into this second tier Lovecraftian second tier stuff. So I can't say everyone rush out and read Lucius Leffing. I don't say that, but not least because the books are not cheap. But if they are, if one falls into your hands, and it's raining outside, I would say kill that time and read the Lucius Leffing stories. It's just admirably good prose, even if the structure of the stories is kind of annoying and you spend a lot of it mad that there's no ghost. But the ghost ones are terrific. So if anyone is out there with the rights to Joseph Payne Brennan and does just like an edition of just the occult detective stuff by Lucius Leffing, maybe that would be something that might find its feet amongst our weird little community.
You
But I
might
like them all.
wait, Ken. There's a company that puts out occult detective novels. Like I've got their a collection of Sherlock Holmes related stuff.
Hmm.
What is the name of that company? That might be something you could shop to the editor.
I mean, I can't shop it to the editor. I don't have the rights to Joseph
Oh,
Payne
but
Brennan.
maybe you could be the person who would like pick the stories and edit them or
Well,
something.
that would be nice. I would like that.
Um, I don't even know if this is a possibility. I'll email you the name of the company and the editor when I pull
Hmm.
it down off my shelf. It's
Yeah.
just I um I forget what I was going to talk about. Sorry.
You'll remember in
Yeah,
a minute.
but it's just a wild little, sort of almost forgotten curly Q in the sort of Lovecraft uh what do I want to say, penumbra. And it's not like Brennan is super famous even for his mythos stuff, but I was just irresistibly drawn to it and found myself spending $85 for a copy of the casebook of Lucius Leffing, which is the self-published one. And I'm not Pete Rollick by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not a collector. I own a ton of books. I do not collect books. But that one was I just felt like I wanted to finish the set and read all the Lucius Leffings. So
You brought something up that
wild.
earlier that kind of like made me wonder because like a lot of the authors who I read, their career was writing in the pulps.
Hmm.
And now how in the heck, if those markets have essentially gone and there are only very few anymore uh, magazines or online zines that publish short fiction in any of our little genres, it's like, how the heck do you get your first stories in print? It just has to be harder than heck.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that Pete could speak to that more than I could. Or if you wanted to have Nick Mamatas on as a guest, my friend Nick, he has built an amazing career in genres that you can't build a career in, including Cthulhu Mythos stories. So I think that, his book Starve Better, which is a book of writer's advice by Nick Mamatas, one of the best books of writer's advice I've ever read, because it's not about how do you write, it's about how do you even find a place to sell. And of course, it was years ago, so it's not the recommendations are not up to date to the minute, but the mindset very much is.
Yeah, but speaking of
And
Mythos convention books, though.
right. Oh yeah. Well, Nick writes the exception to any book that you think, well, that's going to be terrible, and then Nick writes it. It's like, okay, it's not going to be terrible if Nick does it, but
Well,
um,
we have a recommendation on that from Scott Jackson. My
yeah,
favorite convention novel, on the side chat. My favorite convention novel is Bimbos of the Death Sun by Sharon McCrum.
yes, that's in the category of good fun,
Right.
much like Asimov's Murders at the ABA, where, and again, in fairness, like Active Providence, that's good fun. I'm not mad at it, but it's just, you imagine handing it to a grown up and saying, "This is what I read," and they would look at you in a way, I think. And I think that's true even of Bimbos of the Death Sun, which is a great story, and I loved reading it, and I'm happy to own it. And no shade on Sharon McCrum ever, but come on. I mean, this is not, Solaris, where you say this is what our art form does. This
Right.
is
This is like
this is
Mystery
just for
Science
us.
Theater 3000
Yeah, very
viewing
much so. Yeah.
reading.
Uh-huh. But anyway, I wanted to give a shout out to
Yeah, thank
Joseph
you.
Payne Brennan, who no one ever gives a shout out to, and the insanity that is me reading all the Lucius Leving stories.
No,
Made no
Next,
I
sense.
love that
you'll be
because
giving a shout out to John Glasby next.
Well, I might. I
No, but
I don't think that I've read all of John Glasby, but I read a ton of John Glasby back in the day when Crypt of Cthulhu was reprinting him.
no, but in all seriousness, I love that about this show. Really, giving out recommendations and shout outs to stuff that people would not have otherwise known about.
Not.
Yeah. So
And I
thank
mean,
you for that.
even canonical lists of occult detectives sometimes miss Lucius Leffing. So if you're an occult detective guy, the occult ones are absolutely worth reading. They're in conversation with the absolute best stuff. I mean, it's not quite Carnacki good, but it's definitely John Silence good.
Matt, you want
And
to finish talking about Ballinger Press because Alan found it for you.
Yeah, it's just I don't remember the name but of the editor, but he's got a long tradition of publishing pastiches or modern stories written starring these great detectives. Like he doesn't just do Lovecraftian Holmes. That's a teeny weeny bit of what they do. They do all kinds of Holmes stuff and then other detectives as well. I'll look up the name of the editor and I'll send it to you. I might just send him an email and see if he bites.
Well,
yeah, I mean the Leffing stories are not even Solar Ponds level pastiche. They're like, a couple of standard deviations away from that, but Lucius Leffing is a master of disguise, and he's got long legs, and he has gray eyes, and he steeples his fingers, and he falls into sulky times, and he doesn't tell his Watson things. So it's structurally Holmes and Watson, even if it's not attempting to be Holmes and Watson, if you follow me. And
yeah.
the mysteries are pretty contemporary. They're not, the sort of uh, period things, even though the detective Leffing is always complaining that Victorian age was better than it is now.
Well, thanks for that, Ken, Matt,
Yeah.
and Bridget for your movie recs. Next week, here's some guests we have coming up over the next month or so. Next week is Todd Kiesling. On the 13th, Cody Goodfellow is going to be here.
Oh, good.
Yeah, Ian Rogers on the 20th, July. And on the 27th, SP Muskowski, but specifically, she contacted me because we're both huge fans of the film What Lies Beneath, Harrison Ford and Michelle
Mm,
Pfeiffer.
so good.
Yeah, and she let me know that the 25th anniversary was coming up of the movie, and did I want to do a podcast episode on it or a Patreon podcast episode? And I was like, yeah, let's do just a I've got a hole here. We can do a podcast episode about it. So
Nice.
that's what we're going to do. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about other things as well, but that's going to be the main focus. And then on the 3rd of July, well, no, I'm going to have to move that. Why did I book something on the 3rd of July? And why did these guys say yes? I don't know. John Langan and Matthew Jaffe. Am I saying his last name right? Um, the artist. John's got a new collection coming out called Lost in the Dark, and Matthew did the cover for it. And so I contacted him and I said I'd love to get him on the show sometime, and he said that he'd love to, and would it be possible to get on an episode with John since he did that? I was like, yeah, I'm
Cool.
sure it is. So I guess I better email Matthew and John and say,
Scott said, "Who the heck is?"
who the heck is John Langan? I don't know who he is, but I just blindly said yes. And yeah, it should be a great episode, but I'm gonna have to email those guys and say, are you sure about the 3rd? I always forget about holidays for some reason. So yeah, he's the German Godzilla guy, Kim says. All right, well that's all I got. Thanks guys. Cormorant.
There is a prize if you want to win a copy of the short novel The Cormorant by
I
Stephen
like saying
Gregory.
that. The cormorant. The cormorant.
Cormorant. Cormorant.
Cormorant.
Cormorant. Cormorant.
Cormorant.
Anyway, just send an email to easyprizes@gmail.com. Put Cormorant in the subject line. We'll draw a winner in 6 or 8 weeks. Maybe it'll be you.
Well, thanks. And thanks everybody for watching and listening, spending an hour and a half with us. And if you're not a Patreon, that's the only reason why I can keep doing this. I know I say that every time, but honestly, if it wasn't for the Patreons, I'd have to get a real job, and I would not have enough energy for this and the other Lovecraft Easing stuff. So thank you if you are a Patreon, thank you. And you get a hell of a lot for $5 a month. I will say that, quite honestly. And thanks for watching and listening. You guys will not see me on Tuesday night. I can't do a live horror reading because I'm picking up my wife at the airport. But I'll see you on Thursday, and then
Good reason.
yeah, I really miss her. She's been gone a week already. She's helping her sister with some stuff in Tallahassee. So yeah. Thanks everybody. Thanks for watching and listening, and we will see you